at the Stanford Woods Institute for the Environment and a former Assistant Secretary of Energy. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
And that does it for our series on energy this week. You can find all of our conversations at hereandnow.org.
To India now, where smog is halting everyday life. Residents were already enduring coronavirus-related lockdowns, but the spike in air pollution in New Delhi is also keeping people home, including school children. NPR's Lauren Freyer checked in with one family to see how they're coping.
Hello, Lauren.
Hello. Ashir Kandari is a teenage basketball fiend. She and her twin sister are the stars of their high school team. They want to play in college, but there's an obstacle. They live in New Delhi.
What's it like to practice in pollution? I mean, do you feel it?
Definitely, I start watering, and it's much more harder to breathe. Your endurance is very important, so that's compromised when the pollution is higher.
Delhi has some of the worst air pollution in the world.
Yeah, actually right now she's breathing poison.
Ashir's mother, Bavreen Kandari, is a clean air campaigner. She's just back from the UN Climate Summit, where she shocked people with tales of Delhi's Air Quality Index, or AQI.
What is the AQI in Glasgow? And it was 20. And then I checked Delhi, and it was 500.
Bavreen is part of a group called the Warrior Moms. They successfully lobbied Delhi to close schools when pollution spikes. But even when her daughters don't have to commute in the smog, she still won't let them shoot hoops outside, much to their annoyance.
We've had quite a few fights over it, and screaming and crying.
Bavreen hates to deny them something they love, and even that feels inadequate.
As much as a mother who's giving them the best food, but trying to invest in organic and all that, I cannot buy my children new lungs. It's so sad,
Pollution kills an estimated 1.7 million Indians every year. In Delhi, it's worse now when farmers burn crop stubble after the harvest and cold temperatures trap industrial and vehicular emissions over the city.
I'm just off of one of Delhi's busiest traffic circles. There are 8 lanes of traffic. Next to me, there's a woman making tea on a charcoal fire. And there's a construction site across the street, and towering over all of these pollutants is something that the Delhi government has installed to try to clean the air.
There's some aesthetics to it. It looks like a pagoda, right, from a distance.
Kartik Ganesan is an energy policy researcher who agreed to meet me at Delhi's Smog Tower. It's an 8-story structure with 40 giant fans at its base, and it filters 1,000 cubic meters of air per second. It was actually off when we arrived. With a handheld meter, we measured the fine particulate matter in the air and got a reading of hazardous, the highest category. Then the engineers saw us and turned it on.
Let's see. They turned it on, right?
So what was it, 2:15 before they turned it on?
Exactly.
It's going down.
Of course it is. It's going to go down.
So now we're in the very unhealthy category, which is actually an improvement.
The air quality did improve right next to the smog tower. But when we took a few steps away...
Within 10, 12 feet, the impact starts withering away.
So you have to sit right next to that thing and
how many people are standing right next to this? In fact, it's fenced off.
Delhi would need thousands of these towers to benefit everyone. It's got just 2, and they cost more than $2 million each.
Everybody's just desperate, will something work? And we're just throwing money at any contraption.
Instead of trying to clean the air, Ganesan says authorities need to stop the pollution, switch to renewables, build more public transit. Delhi did ban non-essential trucks and shut half of its coal-fired power plants for 2 weeks last month. But that hurts industry, and India is a developing country. Economic growth really matters here. Bavreen Kandari, the mother of twins, finds this focus on economic growth a bitter pill to swallow. Her kids have had seasonal coughs since they were 9 months old. She became a clean air activist, stopped them from playing basketball outdoors, and yet...
No matter what I did, I have damaged my children's lungs. They are never going to be the same. They are going to suffer.
Because they were born in this city, she says, they will pay a price. Lauren Freyer, NPR News, New Delhi.
It's here and now.
You're listening to Here and Now on WAMU 88.5, celebrating 60 years of public service in the Washington region. On the latest episode of Diane Ream's podcast, On My Mind, Amy Walter of the Cook Political Report discusses why President Biden's popular policies haven't translated to popularity among voters. You can listen now at dianeream.org or on your favorite podcast app.
Support for Marketplace Tech on WAMU comes from Dell Systems, orchestrated by the experts at CDWG, securing data and adapting to the way teams work. IT orchestration by CDWG, people who get it. Support for WAMU comes from Combined Federal Campaign of the National Capital Area. Federal employees and retirees can be change makers today for charities and organizations like NPR and WAMU through the CFC. More at givecfc.org. Blue Cross Blue Shield Association. Nearly 1 in 3 people can't afford their prescriptions. That's why Blue Cross Blue Shield companies are actively working to address affordability, committed to affordable care for the health of America.
It is Friday. If you still don't have any weekend plans, don't worry about it. You can find a list of 11 in-person and virtual events happening this weekend around the region on dcist.com. You can also find local headlines there. Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston and MathWorks, creators of MATLAB and Simulink software for technical computing and model-based design. MathWorks, accelerating the pace of discovery in engineering and science. Learn more at mathworks.com. And Aspiration, working to help people combat climate change with a credit card that lets them plant a tree with every purchase. One card, zero carbon footprint. Aspiration.com/credit. Aspiration Financial, LLC. With many of us glued to screens during the pandemic, YouTube ad revenue shot up. What has that meant for creators? From American Public Media, this is Marketplace Tech. I'm Kimberly Adams. Marketplace Tech is supported by Akamai. Akamai recently acquired Guardicore to provide zero-trust security solutions that help stop the spread of ransomware. Visit akamai.com/tech to learn more. And by Aspiration, working to combat climate change with a credit card that helps members go carbon neutral. Aspiration.com/credit. Aspiration Financial, LLC. Many tech companies had a
Why they need
financially speaking.
3 cops
That includes YouTube
for a fucking traffic stop?
by Google, owned by Alphabet. YouTube ad
That's a
revenue
lot.
jumped 46% between 2019 and 2020 as people stuck at home turned to the platform for all sorts of reasons. I recently spoke with YouTube CEO
Bastard.
Susan Wojcicki, who
Stupid
says
bus.
more people are
Get out of the
becoming
way.
creators on the platform as well as consumers of videos, and they're making money in the process.
We did see that when
God.
people were stuck at home, they definitely were turning to more streaming services, and we definitely saw a big growth in our traffic and the engagement. And creators in many ways, because they were used to filming at home or used to filming with fewer people around them, were able to continue to produce and create a lot of really valuable content. We also saw that during the pandemic, people needed help. They needed to learn a lot of skills they had never learned before, fix things in their house, as well as, of course, kids who were at home. And so we have a lot of valuable learning, how to help your kids, how to help with homeschooling. So we definitely saw YouTube be a really critical resource.
Can you talk to me a little bit more about the YouTube creator economy, how it's grown over the years and how you see it changing moving forward?
Sure. So we have over 2 million creators who generate revenue from YouTube. When we look, for example, in the US, what that actually means, we see that that actually contributes really significantly in both GDP and in jobs. 20 billion in GDP and almost 400,000 in jobs. It's just a way for individuals to be able to take their passion, turn it to a next generation media company, and generate revenue.
And speaking of generating revenue, based on what I can see online, most of YouTube's highest paid creators are white. And I know you've had a big initiative to try to elevate more creators of color, but what is the long-term strategy for increasing the diversity of the type of people who can get rich on YouTube?
Well, first of all, we think YouTube is a great way for being able to diversify the voices that we hear in media. So because YouTube isn't a gatekeeper, anyone can just post their video and post and start creating content and connecting with their audience. They don't need to go create a script and have someone review it and then approve it, right? And we really do see that YouTube has enabled a lot of voices from underrepresented communities that we never would have heard from before in media. It's been hard for us to really understand exactly what is the diversity of YouTube because we don't have our creators report. They don't tell us what their backgrounds are. And so we actually launched something recently called Self-ID where users can actually identify and tell us what is their background, how do they affiliate, and that is going to be really useful for us to understand exactly what is the makeup of our creator base and how do we continue to support them in all ways.
YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki. You can hear all of my interview with her on our website, marketplacetech.org. Jesus Alvarado, Sasha Fernandez, and Stephanie Hughes produce our show. Gary O'Keefe is our engineer. I'm Kimberly Adams, and that's Marketplace Tech. This is APM.
Support for Marketplace Tech on WAMU comes from Cerner. Cerner is working to shape the healthcare of tomorrow for veterans and service members today. More at cerner.com/federal.
In DC right now, 52 degrees and cloudy. It is also 52 degrees in Lorton and downtown Silver Spring at 2:38.
I'm Susan Levy. A mostly white jury has been seated for the trial of a former Minnesota police officer who claims she mixed up her gun and taser when she shot and killed black motorist Dante Wright in April in a Minneapolis suburb. Kim Potter is charged with manslaughter. Wright was killed after a traffic stop as police tried to arrest him on an outstanding warrant. The new Omicron variant appears to be driving a dramatic surge in South Africa. Cases there have risen from about 200 a day in mid-November to more than 11,500 on Thursday. The Iran nuclear talks in Vienna are on pause and set to reconvene next week. Officials say in the meantime, diplomats will consult with their governments. The European Union official chairing the meeting says there has been some progress, but further convergence is necessary. You're listening to Here and Now.
And you're listening to Here and Now on WAMU. For the next meeting of Diane Dean's virtual book club, Diane will host a conversation with Jerry Parker, the nation's first Native American author about It's happening on Wednesday, December 15th at 1 p.m. Find out more and register at wamu.org/events.
Why do they keep stopping right next to the fucking car, dude?
Visa, a network working
Jesus
to
fuck
keep the
Christ, is
future
there something I
payments
can't see
secure.
over there?
Using advanced AI and machine learning, Visa
God.
helped prevent $26 billion in fraud last year. More at visa.com/consumer security. Johns Hopkins Medicine in
Don't worry,
the
I'm
Greater
fucking
Washington
watching you.
area, Sibley Memorial Hospital, Suburban Hospital, and Johns Hopkins Community Physicians. Moving healthcare forward for all of us. More info at hopkinsmedicine.org/forward.
Did you know your smart speaker is also a radio? Just ask it to play WAMU. Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston and Oliver Wyman, believing that business success is a series of everyday decisions shaped by breakthrough moments requiring expertise, creativity, and diversity of ideas and people. Learn more at oliverwyman.com.
Nobody's just holding
And
them up
Indeed,
for nothing.
a hiring platform that connects businesses with candidates. Indeed partners with businesses to help attract, screen, and interview from one place. More at Indeed.com/hire.
From NPR and WBUR, I'm Callum Borchers in Boston.
And I'm Peter O'Dowd in Phoenix. This is Here and Now. The actor Alec Baldwin is speaking out for the first time about the death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins, who was shot on the set of the film Rust in late October. In last night's exclusive interview with ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos, Baldwin said he did not pull the trigger of the gun that killed Hutchins while they were rehearsing a scene.
I let go of the hammer, the gun goes off.
At the moment, the decisive
That was the moment the gun went off, yeah. That was the moment the gun went off.
It wasn't in the script for the trigger to be pulled.
Well, the trigger wasn't pulled. I didn't pull the trigger.
So you never pulled the trigger.
No. I would never point a gun at anyone and pull a trigger at them, never.
KPCC entertainment reporter John Horn has been following this story from the very beginning, and he joins me now. John, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
And what did you take away from that interview, which was remarkable at times?
It didn't feel like it got to the heart of
What
the
is he
issue. The heart of
fucking
the
handing
issue
over?
is how did live ammunition get on the set of Rust? And listen, I'm not a gun expert. Alec Baldwin said he pulled the hammer.
Oh, you got
back
bird
and
shit on
released
him.
it. That's not what pulling the trigger does, drawing back and releasing the hammer. So it might be a distinction without a difference. It's not as if the gun went off by itself. What's more, Baldwin's ABC interview is a little bit at odds with what he told investigators immediately after Hutchins was killed. According to a report released earlier this week by the Santa Fe Sheriff's Office, an officer who arrived at the site right after the fatal gunshot said, and I'm quoting here, that he was the one that...
So they're
fired
making
the
him
weapon.
wait.
So a bullet was fired from that
So the
gun,
cop
and
can
that
clean
bullet
bird
killed
shit off.
Helena Hutchins. So there was a
And he
live
threw it on the
ammunition
ground.
chambered in the gun, and when the trigger was pulled or the hammer was released, it fired the bullet.
Fucking bastard threw it on the
The
ground.
criminal investigation is ongoing, of course, but why do you think Alec Baldwin would even give an interview right now? Do you think he did himself any favors?
Well, his lawyer probably didn't think it was a great idea, but I think what you're seeing now is a lot of people who were involved in the shooting saying, basically, it wasn't my fault. And that includes the assistant director, Dave Halls, who allegedly said the gun was a cold gun, meaning it didn't have ammunition in it. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, the armor on the film, saying that she checked the guns, but maybe she didn't check them that closely. Then there's the whole question of the bullets themselves, because the authorities, you might remember, said they recovered about 500 rounds of ammunition after the shooting from the set. Some were dummies, some were blanks. Dummies are bullets that look like bullets that don't fire, for a close-up of a gun being loaded, and actual live ammunition. So the central question is, how did live ammunition get on the set? I mean, I've talked to armorers,
Fucking
filmmakers,
ridiculous.
safety officers, and that's just rule number one. You never, ever have live ammunition on a movie set.
Even Alec Baldwin said in the interview last night the priority is now to figure out that very question. There are at least 2 lawsuits pending already. What happens next on that front, do you think?
Well, that's civil litigation that kind of moves at its own pace. I mean, I think the thing that most people are interested in is, will there be criminal charges? Now, the authorities said a couple of weeks ago that there was complacency on the set of Rust. The question is, at what point does that complacency go to the level of criminal negligence? And I think that's going to be the key question. And also, earlier this week, there was this story from the sheriff's department that the slugs might have come from Seth Kenny, who is a New Mexico weapons dealer, and he might have gotten reloaded ammunition in a bizarre twist from the father of Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, who is the kind of novice armor on Rust. So I think they're now basically doing, the forensic analysis, or trying to trace the custodianship of the bullets to see where they came from, because there's no question that was a live round that killed Helena Hutchins.
All right. I'm talking with KPCC entertainment reporter John Horn. And John, I do want to actually ask you about another topic, and that relates to the health of the movie industry in general. There was this new study out that polled pre-pandemic moviegoers, and almost half of the people who responded said that although they once went to cinemas, they no longer do so. How big of an issue is this for the movie industry?
Huge. Crisis level. And this is a line in the report that I was struck by, and I'm quoting it now. The good news is that 70% of all respondents, including those who aren't currently going to the movies, would be upset if theaters went away. Meaning 30% wouldn't mind if theaters went away. So I don't take that as good news. I take that as really dire news. And something that's important to note is that theater admissions on a per capita basis, like how often the average American went to a movie theater, was declining even before the pandemic. And if you really think about it, the movie business hasn't changed in 100 years. If you want to see a movie at a theater, you have to go at a set time, at a set day, at a set location. That hasn't changed in a century, and the world has changed. So it's a little bit like, the movie theater business is kind of horse and buggy in an era of electric vehicles and rideshare. The shift
I mean, I was just looking at my cable bill right now. I get so many different streaming services. Yes, I pay a lot of money for them, but I can watch pretty much anything I want at home and not worry, A, about getting infected, and B, not have to go out of the house and deal with crowds.
What a culture shift happening right underneath our feet. I know you speak with directors, actors, people in the industry all the time. What are they saying about this?
Well, I think they're of two really torn minds. I think they want people to see their movies.
Wow.
And they make the movies to be seen in theaters. And a year ago, HBO made an announcement with its sister company, Warner Brothers, that all Warner Brothers movies would premiere day and date in theaters and on HBO Max. And there are a number of filmmakers who were a little unhappy about that. Christopher Nolan, probably the most important director, thought it was horrible. And Denis Villeneuve, the director of Dune, was equally upset. I mean, he said that